Hey everyone, today's video is sponsored by Audible and they're giving away a free title in today's video. All info is down in the description below. So you can have any title you want of their thousands of different titles to choose from online, but I would recommend with Tales of the Jedi coming out for you to grab either Dooku Jedi Lost, Master and Apprentice, which is the Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan prequel book, or the Ahsoka audiobook. I think that one would be really interesting for you guys to listen to as it's narrated really nicely and also goes over Ahsoka's story, which I think we're going to see in Tales of the Jedi. It's going to pick up after Revenge of the Sith, so after Clone Wars Season 7, where we left off on that ice planet. And I think it would be really great to catch up with everything that she's been doing and sort of tie in all of the gaps that we haven't filled in yet that the show will probably do. Audible is great. You can listen to any of your Star Wars audiobooks or any audiobooks that they offer, which are thousands of different titles online, whether it be horror, documentaries, history, fiction, sci-fi, whatever you want. And they're all narrated beautifully, some with even voice acting. There's sound effects like for the Star Wars ones, officially licensed music, and each month that you are a member, they give you a free token which allows you one free title of your choosing, which there are thousands and thousands of different titles to choose from on audible.com. So if you'd like to claim your free month, the links are in the description, or you can text Star Wars Theory to 500 500, or you can go to audible.com/Star Wars Theory. That's audible.com/Star Wars Theory. Hey guys, what's going on? How are you? Today we're going to answer a very simple question, but a rather popular one that I see in the comments quite a bit regarding Andor and why the clones were around during the Empire. Everyone thought that they were just decommissioned completely. So let's get into it. But before we do, this is the breast cancer awareness hat. This is a pink edition. It's only available for another week or so until the end of October, and 50% of all sales proceeds will go towards breast cancer charity, as well as this one, which is the Halloween edition, just a orange variant. This is available only in October as well. Links are in the description, so go grab one and help me donate 50% of the proceeds towards charity. Okay, so why did the clones show up in Andor? Now, I calculated at that time regarding what Marva told Andor that was like 13 years when Clem got hung by the clones, by the Empire, and did some calculations, and that means that it was about 3 years after Revenge of the Sith, roughly 2 to 3 years. So why were clones still in the Empire and now being used, even after Kamino was destroyed, as we saw in the Bad Batch? And the reason for this is because they were still around. Now, why were they decommissioned? Why were they completely gone and we just see Stormtroopers replacing? Is it clones in the Stormtrooper outfits, or is it new people, new soldiers from all over the galaxy? Well, the answer is that the clones died out. As we saw in Kenobi, we did see the 501st just sitting there, and he was, had his cup out, and he was essentially out of work. And this is what happens to a lot of veterans, unfortunately. The same thing happens in the Star Wars universe. Now, the reason for this is not because the Stormtroopers are better than the clones or more efficient, but Palpatine wanted numbers. He had money, he had everything, he could afford all that stuff, but he wanted numbers. He wanted a vast army that could spread the reaches of the galaxy to kind of impose that the Empire is always here, the Empire is always watching you, and we're always around. If you have white stormtroopers all over the place, instead of just like a tight-knit group of battalions of clones here and there on different worlds and different planets, gonna look much more imposing. Like, these guys are everywhere, I can't get rid of them. They're all over the place, right? So I feel like in that moment, the clones were still very much used. However, as time went on, their accelerated aging came into play and they started getting older, because if you didn't know that they had accelerated aging, and we learned this in Attack of the Clones. And the reason for that was because there wasn't much time. You couldn't wait for a clone to reach maturity at like 20 years or 30 years. You had to get it done fast. So they had double to maybe even more of a regular person's aging so that they would be ready by the time the Clone Wars rolled around. So these clones, the clones that we saw in in episode 2, were actually being made years ago, 10 years before, because by the time they were actually able to fight in the war, they were like 20, 30 years old. So I loved seeing the clones in Andor. I think those flashbacks are really worthy of the Star Wars universe, and they help build the overall time shifts and the transformation of the Republic into the Empire and so on and so forth. So I feel like we're going to see more of that. Now, the clones aren't bad people. They're not bad clones. They're just brainwashed. So they have those chips in their head that basically completely shifted them from the normal loving clones that we knew them to be in the Clone Wars to these like robots. Now, I always thought it was funny, you know, what if clones were like at a diner or something like that, and this was actually in like a Tag and Binks comic, and what if someone shouted like Order 66 or whatever. But we did see that with Master Bar, who did actually, if you guys read the comics, he did actually execute Order 66 himself, and the clones turned on the Inquisitors, which was kind of interesting. So there's a lot of like little loopholes in Star Wars that they can kind of pull from, and of course, if, you know, if it fits their story, they can write it in there. But as for why the clones were still around during Andor, this is the reason. It's that they were still there. They weren't fully deactivated. They weren't like old enough yet. These clones were much better trained and much more experienced and much more old than the ones that we saw in the Clone Wars. The ones we saw in Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith. These clones have been around for quite a while now, and they've seen the complete change and shift from the Republic fighting with the Jedi to now for the Empire and for these captains and corporals and lieutenants. There was this one comic a while ago I read, I forgot which one it was, but it was essentially showing a very grizzled, scarred up clone. He was old, and it was during the time of the Empire, well into the Empire, and he was kind of scoffing at the new Stormtroopers and being like, these guys are just young bucks, they don't know what they're doing, they're soft. And he was sort of reminiscing of the times of the Clone Wars with his brothers. The Stormtroopers didn't really understand much, but you know, they were like the new young generation. But essentially, this is what Palpatine wanted. He wanted a vaster army. He wanted a larger army. And this army didn't need to be well trained. It didn't need to be super powerful. He just needed numbers. And that was all it was for him. He just wanted a bigger army at the end of the day. Not only was it cheaper, but it just looked more imposing, because coming from the clones, these guys sort of looked like the next level. And so people didn't necessarily know, okay, are these the same as the clones, or are they something new, or are these clones just with a new uniform? Why are there so many of them? Palpatine was just focusing on the fact that there were now a larger number, and he was conscripting people from all over the galaxy, aliens. He didn't discriminate, you know, he had humans, aliens, whatever you want. And anyone who wanted to be a part of the Empire became a Stormtrooper. So that was later the transition that happened once the clones started to get old and they just, you know, sort of died out. And Palpatine wanted a new face to the Empire. He didn't want to have any sort of connection to the Republic. So he used the clones as much as he could, and then he just shifted over once his full army of Stormtroopers were ready. And that is why we see that lag in the efficacy and the accuracy of their shots and their overall field training, their battle training, that they just suck in comparison. They can never hit anything. It's because they weren't really trained. They were just conscripted. He just wanted a larger audience. He just wanted a larger army, and to just look more imposing and look more threatening. So that is the reason why we see the clones and why they shifted out. I have lots of videos on this from the past if you guys want to check them out. I've also been using the shorts feature. I didn't really like making shorts, but there's this new feature that YouTube rolled out where you can create shorts from older videos and create highlighted points. So I'm going to start doing that, and you guys will be seeing like several different shorts per day of older videos and highlights and stuff. I think they're really interesting, and a lot of them have a lot of really good points from the novels and the making of and behind the scenes and stuff like that. So I get a kick out of them, you know, watching them going down memory lane a little bit, and they remind me of certain key lore facts and things like that. So I hope you guys will be interested in those as well. So I will catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching today's explanation and my thoughts on it, and I will see you very soon. Until then, may the Force be with you.